this is a short video on carbohydrates, its uses in the body, and a little bit about chemical structure. Carbohydrates are the body's preferred source of energy. They function in a couple of different ways, but it is the main source of energy for our bodies. And here in this picture, you can see these are food sources that have major carbohydrates. You have bananas and fruits. Those contain carbohydrates, some of those sugars. Bread and pasta and potatoes. Potatoes are a good source of starch. All of these are excellent sources of energy and should be included in an endurance athlete's diet, as well as anybody who is active. Glucose is a monosaccharide of carbohydrates. It's a monomer of carbohydrates. It circulates in the blood, and it is the body's preferred source of energy. Glycogen is a polysaccharide. That's a polymer of carbohydrates. It's stored in the muscle and liver. And when endurance athletes carb load 48 hours before their big event, their big competition, glycogen is the main polysaccharide that they rely on in order to have enough energy to complete the marathon, to complete the swim, to have enough energy throughout a sports match. Okay, here's just a visual of what some athletes and their reliant ability on carbohydrates. You have liver storing that glycogen source, and the liver is going to use enzymes, of course, to break down the glycogen and put glucose into the bloodstream. And then the glycogen stored in muscles are broken down and they are converted to energy. Just a little bit of notes on carbohydrates. Again, main source is fuel, but some carbohydrates are used as building material. Here, simple sugars like fructose, and then you have polymers like starch. Again, starch is found in things like potatoes. The chemical structure of carbohydrates, they're composed of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, and usually it's in a ratio of 1 to 2 to 1. Okay, C6H12O6, that is your chemical compound of glucose. You have monosaccharides, disaccharides, polysaccharides. Those are some different varieties of carbohydrates. Again, monosaccharides, mono means one. Monosaccharides are monomers of carbohydrates. Some examples: glucose, ribose. Ribose is a sugar that is in RNA, ribonucleic acid. It's a structural sugar, but it is a monosaccharide. And here you have some polysaccharides. Polysaccharides, stored energy for plants. Starch is a polysaccharide. It's a storage carbohydrate. And then again, in animals, glycogen is major. Glycogen is a polysaccharide stored in not just the liver and the muscles, but in other organs in the body. Like a pregnant woman will have a significant amount of glycogen storage in her uterus. You have structural polysaccharides, cellulose. Cellulose is a polysaccharide that composes the cell walls of plants. And then you have chitin. Chitin is also a polysaccharide that is a structural carbohydrate. Okay, here's just some chemical structures for you to look at. You can see glycogen is made of many glucose molecules that are linked together. Glycogen, again, is that polysaccharide. You also have simple sugars like sucrose. Sucrose is made of 2 different types of monosaccharides. So we call sucrose a disaccharide, and it's made of glucose and fructose. Now, sucrose is that common table sugar, and glucose and fructose taste the same, but your body metabolizes glucose and fructose a little bit differently. Fructose is used as energy, but it sometimes your body sometimes recognizes fructose as a fat producer. And so if it's not used up, then that fructose can be converted to fat or lipids. But glucose and fructose are common examples of monosaccharides. They're composed of just one simple sugar. And you can see they're just simple rings of sugar. There are different categories of carbohydrates, classifications. You have, again, monosaccharides, disaccharides, oligosaccharides, which are 2 to 10, and then polysaccharides. And if you know that a lot of these examples of sugars, like glucose, fructose, galactose, sucrose, lactose, maltose, raffinose, stachyose, these all have that suffix "ose" in it. And typically, if you see OSE, you can recognize it as a sugar, as a carbohydrate. Now, not all of them have that suffix, but a lot of them do. Cellulose, that's again a major polysaccharide composing plant cell walls. Also saccharides. If you see a saccharide, anything that's a saccharide is going to be a carbohydrate. So that's one helpful way to recognize if a compound is going to be a carbohydrate. It has those suffixes in them, ose and saccharide.